This right here is the single most reason I bought the IC-7300 Mark II. Stick around. Let's talk about it. Hey, everybody. Tim here. GraymanPOTA, amateur radio call sign November Whiskey 9 Foxtrot. Well, I'm back out here in the shed today, and I'm going to get the IC-7300 Mark II set up for the network. That's right. You can remotely control this radio because it is directly attachable to your home network, or actually any Ethernet network that you have available to it. Now, what's that mean for you? Well, that allows you now to remotely control the radio, whether you're sitting in the same room on the other side of the house or halfway across the country. You now can do ham radio remotely with an affordable radio. When ICOM announced that the 7300 Mark II was coming out, a radio that I love, and it had the ability to remotely control it, that's like peanut butter and jelly to me, peas and carrots, you know. So I went ahead and got one. I've got it here. Now I've made a few videos on it and it has been great, but now we're going to get really into the nitty gritty of the radio and how to get it set up. So the first thing you need to do is you need to have some prerequisite knowledge of networking. Now, most people have a wireless network at home or some form of a firewall, gateway, wireless access point. They're all kind of used interchangeably, but you have to have the ability to connect to it and assign an IP address. For remote connection to really work, you need to know what that address is. Now, in most cases, people plug it in. They use a protocol called DHCP, or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and it will assign the information to the device that you plug into the network. It assigns the IP address, it assigns the subnet mask, it assigns the DNS servers, and it makes it available to the rest of the network. So there might be some configuration changes that you're going to have to do. I do recommend that if you're not familiar with these, if you don't have that prerequisite knowledge or understanding, find a resource local to you, trying to help somebody out in a situation like this where you don't know how the network is set up, what other devices are there. You can't physically see them, touch them. It makes it really hard and could actually complicate matters and potentially open yourself up to people being able to access your equipment that you don't want them to access it. And I don't want to say that in a bad way, but the potential is there. So I want to make sure that you understand what you're doing. So once again, if this is not something that you know how to do, seek the advice of somebody that does, preferably somebody that is local to you that can come over and sit down with you so you understand it as they set it up. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and head over to the radio and do some basic settings. All right, so what we've got here is the display of the 7300. I'm going to go ahead and come over here and I'm going to hit the menu button and I'm going to press set. All right, so the option I had set there, we've got multiple pages of options, but what we want to do is look on page 2. And actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and go to page 3. And what we need is the information button and the MAC address. That's going to be important. If you need to set a reservation or a way to secure or assign an address, we need to know that MAC address. Now, it depends on your network, the equipment you use, and how that is done, or if it can be done. Once again, there's so many different ways, different modems, different cable providers, companies, they provide different equipment. In my case, my cable company just hands it off to me and I manage everything myself. And there's a whole gamut right there. So you may need to know this address so you can, every time the computer or the radio in this case, goes onto the network and says, hey, I'm here. That's part of that dynamic host configuration. It would know that it would have a way to identify the radio to say, yes, you need this address. That is going to be important when you try to remotely connect to the radio, especially if you're outside of your home network. All right, so the MAC address, let's go ahead and go back. Go to page 2, select network, and page 1. Now this is set by default to DHCP. Now there's a little asterisk there, and what that asterisk means is that whenever you make these options, if there's an asterisk next to it, you're going to have to restart the radio to get that to take effect. Just know that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. And I'm going to go ahead and back out, and I'm going to power the radio down. And I'm going to power the radio back up. Now I'm going to use a statically assigned address, meaning that it does not ask the router, the gateway, for an address. Every time it comes onto the network, it says, hey, I'm here and I'm ready to do business. So now that we've got that set, let's go back to menu. We're going to go to set. We're going to select network. DHCP is off, so let's go to address. Now I'm going to assign an address for my network. Once again, if you're trying to follow this along, you need to use an address range that is specific for your network, not mine, because I can't help you there, right? So you have to have the appropriate address ranges set up. In this particular case, I am going to use 10.10.200.100 and hit enter. So 10.10.200.100 is the address that I'm assigning to the radio. Now that will be the address that I use on the local network to access it. Now that that is set, I have to set a subnet mask. In most networks, most residential home networks, they use a Class C address space. So the subnet mask would be 255.255.255.0. And that is already set. So we're just going to go ahead and hit the back button. Now I need a default gateway, and that is my router, my access point. However, whatever network, the traffic has to be passed to leave the network to go out to the internet. So in my case, that is going to be 10.10.200.1. We're going to hit enter. All right, we're going to page down now to page 2. So primary DNS server in most residential home network setups, it'll be the same address as your access point, gateway, router. So we'll select that, and that is going to be 10.10.200.1. And enter. Secondary DNS server in most residential home setups, you don't have a secondary DNS server, so not to worry about that. And then network name, we're going to highlight that, and I'm going to just call this 7300. Mark II. And hit enter. All right, so now remote settings, and we're going to need to make a few setting changes here. Network control, we need to turn it on. And that's what's telling the radio, hey, accept connections from outside over the Ethernet port. Second setting is power off settings for remote control. Now, if you've seen some of the initial comments about the radio, and the power button is blue or red. Well, it's that way for a reason. Red means it's in a stand down or standby state, or it's off, meaning that there's no power to the radio at all, or it's blue, meaning that it's on. So standby is a position where the radio is powered off. It is not receiving or transmitting. It is powered down, but the network port is still enabled and active, and that part of the processing is still there. So it will see network traffic. And if a wake up packet comes to the radio, it will tell the radio to go ahead and fully power up and connect. So that's how you can shut the radio down when you're not here with it, and allow it to be available the next time you want to connect. So if you're traveling and you're at a hotel and you operate the radio at one night, you shut it down before you go to bed, it's powered off, it's not receiving, it's not transmitting, but it is still available for you to power it back up the next day when you come back from your trip or whatever. So you want to have that on. And for power off setting, you have only shutdown and standby shutdown. And we're going to put it in standby shutdown. And I'm going to show you on the display here when we go to power off the radio to have it accept all these settings that we make. Next option down, control port UDP 50,001, serial port 50,002, and audio port 50,003. Those are the default ICOM ports. Leave those as is unless there's a reason that you have something that would conflict, but leave those as is. Next option down is internet access line, ADSL cable TV, or FTTH, which is fiber to the home. If you're on a fiber optic network, use fiber to the home. If you're on anything else, use that. It sets some buffers and everything, and it will potentially make remote operation a little bit better. If you've got it set to fiber to the home and you're having some issues, drop it down to the cable TV or ADSL setting. Network user 1. So you can set up 2 different user accounts. You can assign both of them with admin privileges, which allows you to make changes to the radio remotely, or just a standard user, which they have a limited set of what they can operate with, change frequencies, power, stuff like that. So network user 1, I'm going to go ahead and just use the word Grayman and hit enter. Now I'm going to set a password. You need to set your own password. Now for the demonstration, I'm using the password. Do not use that. Give it something complicated. You don't want people being able to remotely connect to your radio because you're responsible for it based on your license class, just like you're a control operator, right? So if you leave this somewhere, you don't want to leave it open where anybody could just use it. So give it a password, not password. And network user 1 administrator, I'm going to go ahead and give it admin privileges. And I'm going to back out. Now, when I go to hit the power button this time, you're going to see something new on the display. Maybe not. Let's power back up. Let's try that again. All right, so when you hit the power button now, I had to run the settings through so it's like you've got standby for remote control and shutdown. So if you're physically here with the radio, you can do this, hit the standby mode. Let's just say you're sharing the radio, you're letting somebody else use your radio to remotely connect when you're not using it. You can come over, you can hit the shutdown button and nobody can remotely connect to it. Or you can hit the standby for remote control and it powers it down. The screen is blank. It's not receiving. It's not drawing current. Can't transmit, but the Ethernet port is active. And if the wake up signal comes to it, it will come up. And we'll show that here in just a minute. So the first thing we're going to need to do is go ahead and click here to connect. Now this program is nice. It integrates together. So I have a Flex and I use the Mac software for the Flex. All of this writes back to the iCloud account, which allows me to bring configurations between devices. It allows me to centrally log, which is nice. So it doesn't matter if I'm using the 7300. if I'm using the Flex, or in this case, I've even got the ICOM IC-705 in there too. Centralized logging, which is nice, regardless of what device I use to. So just some benefits there. I know a lot of people are Windows based, but yeah, I mean, yeah, not getting into it too far, but yeah. So this is why I've gone with this program. It's just to make life simpler for me. I want ham radio not to I want it to be a fun hobby, not a constant drag. So, all right. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and hit add. Go ahead and give it a radio name. I'm just going to put 7300 MK2, and that's just a designator, so I know what it is. Our connection type is going to be network. Address is going to be that address I assigned, so 10.10.200.100. That control port we put in there, 50,000 to 1. That's the default port. We're going to leave it there. Username and password, Grayman. And the password that you better not be using, password. Now you have an option for auto connect. Now, if this is the only radio you've got in the, that's probably the way to go then. So it'll automatically go in there and you'll bypass the screen. Because I use this program with a couple different ICOM radios, I'm going to go ahead and leave that box unchecked. So whenever I start this up, it'll come to this screen and it'll allow me to pick the radio. So let's go ahead and select 7300 Mark II, and we're going to hit connect. Now it's going to do two things. Brings up the program, but also it started up the screen. So the radio was powered off and it brought it up to a point where it's usable. If you have any questions or comments, please put those down in the comment section below. Also, if you're familiar with applications that you can do this with on Android and Windows, also put that down there. And there'll also be a link to my mailing list. That's where you can get signed up to find out when I post new videos, but also that is the entry form into major giveaways here on the channel. I'd like to thank the members of the channel. They help support the cause. If you're interested in supporting, please hit the join button down below. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. Share this video with your friends. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. And until we have an opportunity to meet on the air, I have a video right over here that you may be interested in.